Hello. Hello, everyone. Greetings from India. I'm Faiz Ahmed Chundeli. I'll be presenting one of the papers submitted to the conference on sustainable development on the topic flood risk assessment, mapping and planning using GIS decision support system, a case study of Kerala. Along with me, there are two more authors, Dr. Adinarayanane Ramaurthy and Dr. Ramesh Srikonda, who had co-authored this. So I'll be taking through the presentation in this format. Very briefly, I'll introduce what is the subject and why this subject is relevant, and a little bit on what is the case area and why are we presenting this case area, what is different about this case area, and a little bit on what is the data that we have used and how we have collected and how we have analyzed. And very quickly, I'll take through some of the results that we have discussed and what is the way forward in this regard. If you see, flood has more devastating impact than any other disasters in across the world. And among the flood-affected nations, India is known to be one of the severely affected countries in Asia. And if you see this graph, this is self-evident. We have Asian countries, and you can see number of events, flood events, particularly flood events that has occurred over the past 2-3 decades. The number of the frequency is much higher, and that's why this subject becomes very pertinent. And also with regards to the impact that it leaves on the economy, and as well as the number of casualties is also much higher when we compare with the other Asian countries. So this also puts the subject a very, very pertinent one to address. And also, if you see, there are many factors that has an influence on how flooding occurs in India, particularly on persistent monsoon rainfalls, reduced river channel carrying capacity, and river bank erosions, and so on and so forth. And of course, the current events of rapid urbanization accommodating a lot of new developments in a shorter duration of time also has put a lot of burdens on the cities and leading to the urban floods or flash floods and so on and so forth. And if I just put this statistics into perspective, these are some of the recent floods that India has encountered. Mumbai flood of 2015, 2005, Bihar floods of 2007-8, Assam floods of 12, and then of recently Chennai 2015 flood. And also the case study that we are presenting today is of the flood that has occurred in 2018. And as we had prepared this, and last week we had a cyclone, and Chennai again had, it was impacted by the storm surge and flooding. So this is a pertinent problem in India. And we have different case studies. There are different cities are approaching in a different way to address this issue. And what we have done is we have documented one of the case studies in South India. So that will hopefully there's some lessons that we can learn from this disaster. And if we just to introduce the case. The India map is shown here, and we are at the southeast part of India. If you see, this is a state called Kerala, and the study area is one of the regions. We call it as district, one of the districts in Kerala. And what is the issue on the case was. The district received about 96% more rainfall than the average rainfall that it used to receive, and if you see the in terms of number, in a shorter duration of time, about 117% of rainfall, excess rainfall occurred during a very short durations of maybe let's say 6 or 7 days time, and this has caused devastating impact on the overall district itself. And in addition to that, there are other districts also, there are other regions which got affected, but we have taken this specifically to highlight on other aspects as well. For example, the impact on the life as a result of this particular flood, and also the extent of damage that has occurred to the agriculture sector, housing, and other infrastructures, and especially on eco-sensitive resources. The region that we have studied or we are presenting now has a large chunk of forest. Despite that, the impact has been devastating. So that's one of the reasons why we are presenting this as a specific case, and also what is the lessons that we can extract, or what the authorities can do to prevent such kind of events in the future. Primarily, we have used two set of information, the primary data set, where we have used analytic hierarchy process to arrive at what are the possible risk factors and how do we assign weightages for each of the factors. And we had a stakeholder meeting where the decision makers from the district side, decision makers from the municipality side, and also the experts on the disaster, and also the personnel who are expertise in this field were called, and a list of critical parameters were analyzed. And that was the primary data. And for the secondary data, we use an extensive data set, which we have in hand readily, which include the precipitation, the elevation, geology, slope, land cover, land use land cover, the other aspects, socioeconomic aspects, and census data set that we have were used as a secondary data set to come out with a comprehensive hazard map, vulnerability map, and the risk map for the district. And in order to arrive at the hazard and vulnerability map, we used the standard IPCC protocols, where the parameters assigned under exposure, sensitivity, adaptive capacity were used. Under exposure, we have used hydrogeology, elevation, slope, land use land cover, normalized difference in moisture index, and so on and so forth. And also to assess this vulnerability, sensitivity of the region, the population density, female population, and other socio-economic factors were considered. And for the adaptive capacity, the literacy rate, access to infrastructures like hospitals, schools, and internet were used. And the AXP was used to check how the municipal administrator or decision maker view these parameters, view these parameters, how they view these parameters, and what is their how do they assess. For example, let's say the idea was to prepare the risk map for the region, and in the process we have to prepare a hazard map, a vulnerability map, and if you see hazard map, these are the parameters that was used to arrive at the scoring or the rating as per the expert opinion. And for the sensitivity map, okay, we have used the parameters listed here. And similarly, for arriving at the adaptive capacity map as per the IPCC standards. So these parameters were used, and the experts were assigned, experts were given these criteria to score this, and then based on this, the maps have been prepared. The first map is on the hazard analysis or the hazard analysis of the entire region, which indicated the higher precipitation level, of course, increases the level of hazards in the region, and these regions have excess surface runoff. Therefore, the low-lying areas, especially in the region within the floodplain buffer rivers, are shown to be much higher in terms of hazard. So you can see here the divisions of hazards, which are the results of AHP super. The AHP results were superimposed on the spatial maps, and the hazard map has been prepared. Similarly, the vulnerability analysis or vulnerability map for the district has been prepared. And like I said in the previous slide, these are the parameters used to arrive at which are vulnerable areas and how we can, what is the vulnerability and how it goes with the hazard map. The third output that we extracted was the vulnerability map or the vulnerability assessment for the region. The risk of the region to the flood is directly dependent on the hazard and the vulnerability of the region. Reducing the vulnerability of the region can reduce its risk even if they have high hazard characteristics. So with these output, we went on to recommend some of the measures that can be taken by the municipality or the region to prevent, not entirely, maybe to reduce the impact of the flood that may occur in the future. So these measures can include the structural and non-structural measures, and this can include the indigenous coping strategies and early warning system and adaptive measures. And also, this region has a specific livelihood, and how do we diversify these livelihood characteristics and ecosystem based approach can be adapted, because we have a large chunk of forest in the region. So recommendations we have divided into two aspects. One is on the generic one, which we can see in most of the districts and the region, which include the IPCC risk management measures that is stipulated, and emergency assistance and disaster relief, population movement in case of floods, and how do we do recovery and reconstruction, and communicating risk, when do we communicate, and what is the specific protocol that is followed now, and how it can be improved. And also on the warning systems, and specifically on what are the structural and non-structural measures that can be adapted. And also a little bit, we have discussed a little bit on how the land use and ecosystem protection can be further enhanced in the region, so that it can act as a flood mitigation measure. Further specific to the region, we have come out with some flood risk reduction and promoting through promoting ecosystem services, which include river, wetland, and washland storage in the region, and how we can use this the blue corridors effectively, and the catchment scale runoff management. How do we do that? And a little bit of discussions on some specific structural measures at different locations that are mapped in as a part of output that the region can adapt. And also on the improvement of channel, so that the intensity is controlled, and also on the sustainable urban drainage systems that the region can adapt. So we have prepared a floodplain zoning map. So this will help the local authorities to understand what kind of interventions can be given based on these zones. So this zone is an outcome of the hazard, the vulnerability map, And these floodplain zone will help in addressing zone-wise the recommendations. So the recommendations are some of it is generic that can be that is applicable for the entire region, and some of the recommendations that we have stipulated is specific based on the zone requirements. To conclude, in this entire analysis, we have followed the IPCC definition of vulnerability, risk, and its adaptation. And we have used an integrative risk assessment by including biophysical and social domains of risk for the study area. And we have used AHP and AHP to arrive at these parameters are already stipulated. There are extensive parameters that is there. So based on the region and based on the context, how the decision makers view these flood risk parameters, and which is more critical, which is less critical, all that has been analyzed. And we have used JS to as a platform to integrate all this to come out with hazard sensitivity and adaptive capacity assessment of the district. And area-specific structural measures and land use zoning measures and non-structural and measures to reduce the risk and floodplain zoning has been prepared. And we hope that this will help in better management of the region. And although steps have been taken, the specific the contribution from the paper is the context specific assessment and the recommendations zone wise has been prepared. With this, I conclude here. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take.